Hi everybody and welcome to All Things Irish and Rock and Roll. We do hope you're enjoying the series of interviews so far. And at this time we'd like to feature the one and only Danny O'Keeffe. Now Danny is a drummer extraordinaire and he has played with so many bands. He's played with Rob Strong, he's played with Adolf J. Rag, Honey Sweet, he's played with the Gentry, and he's played with many, many more bands over the years. He's going to tell you all about his experiences, but also he's going to talk about the loss of his great friend and a good friend of a lot of us in the music business. That is Tony Garrity, who was senselessly killed in that Miami showband massacre. And Danny has given us full permission to use every word that he spoke about. So sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the story from Danny O'Keeffe.
Myself and my friend Tony Garrity, my best mate, we're sitting on the gate in Stanley Road, and a guy came down the avenue across the road. There was a laneway, from the avenue. Walked down with a bass drum in his hand, and we ran over to him and just said, do you play in a band? Blah blah blah. He said, yeah, I'm going down to rehearse. So we said, can we get down and have a listen? And he said, yeah. We walked on down talking to him, and that guy was Brian Downey, and we heard the band playing, and then we just all said, we should start a band. I want to play drums, I want to play guitar, I want to play whatever. But myself and Tony were the only two that actually stuck with it, So that's how we actually got into music. And bit by bit, Tony took lessons, and I kind of went to a couple of drum lessons in the Dublin Drum Centre, but it didn't happen. It was reading, and it was kind of big band stuff. It wasn't like, we wanted to play the Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks and that, So we eventually just kind of got together and started listening to records and, trying to duplicate the records. And, that's how we started off. Bit by bit then we did our first gig in St. Anthony's Hall on the Keys.
What band?
This was a band called the Virginians. I actually have a photograph. We were called after a TV show, the Virginian, the cowboy TV show, and we actually wore cowboy hats. Now we were 15 years of age. We wore cowboy hats, and our mothers embroidered a V on the hat. You'll see it in the photo. I have a photo there, but we had a nice little set, and we did a couple of gigs. We actually went up to do a gig in Tallaght, and the guy wouldn't let us into the pub. We were too young. And after going all the way up, and those days Tallaght was in the country, and after going all the way up, we just had to come home. But bit by bit, we just kind of put a set together and built it up from there. We ended up, myself and Tony Garrity kept going at the music, and with various other guys around the area, we formed different bands, and eventually. By 1967, we were in a full band called the Soundlords, and we actually got the support to Alan Dean, the Chessmen. They were a very big band in the 70s, show band, and in those days the bands had to play for 5 hours. So what they used to do was they used to bring a support band to play for 2 hours, and then they only had to play for 3. So we actually got that gig playing support to them for 2 hours. So we got to play, in all the major ballrooms, and we got to use all their first class gear, equipment. The only thing I had to bring was the snare and sticks, and the boys had to bring the guitars and stuff. But we had a full 2 hour set, and it was all hits of the day, the charts. We used to do the charts, the Kinks, the Beatles, the Stones.
Who was on bass and vocals?
Noel Cullen was on bass. That's the first time I met Noel was in that band. There was a guy called Mick Fay who died since, actually, absolutely great vocalist. The band was really, really good, actually. We had a sax player, Leo Goggins, and myself, Tony Garrity. There was a trumpet player, Jimmy Kramer, was a trumpet player. And we kept that going for, we did that for well over a year. And then myself and Tony went to a rock club in town, the East of Eden, and we seen the Alex Clark Blues Band. Alex Clark was a sax player, and he was after bringing out record Summertime, and we went in to see the band, and like this was the first time we were ever in the club, and like we were kind of 17 and a half-ish, and to be standing so close to the musicians and the sound coming off stage was just knockout. Absolutely fantastic. The band were great. So then we kind of we wanted to play that type of stuff. We got more rocky. We wanted to get more rocky. So we myself, Tony Gertie, and Noel Cullen formed a band with a guy called Pat Silk, who has a lot of albums out today. Actually, Patty's still doing really well from Bluebell. And we formed a band called Society. It was a 4-piece band, and we played a lot of to actually get the gigs. You had to be a sort of a pop band, but we went over and into the rockier side of things, in the charts and that. And we played around for a long time. We used to do the Castaways Club in Clondalkin, clubs around town. We never played the Five Club or the Go-Go. We did that later on with. When that band split, myself and Tony formed a band with Robbie Welch
on vocals.
Yeah, Robbie actually asked us to go into the band with him, and that was the start of Honey Sweet, a band called Honey Sweet, and it was myself and Tony and Noel again with Robbie on vocals. And with that band, we had Ollie Bourne as a manager. To have Ollie as a manager was a really big deal at the time. He was probably one of the top managers. 20% full responsibilities was his saying, But he always got you gigs from the minute he took us over. Like you'd be writing in 3 or 4 gigs, into the dirty, where you'd normally be doing 1 maybe or 2 or But so we started playing like the good venues then. We put a really good set together. And
what venues can you remember, Denny?
Venues, we did. The Go-Go was the absolute, top venue. To play the Go-Go on a Saturday night, you had made it. You were at the top. It didn't get any better. The Go-Go, the Five Club was another fantastic club to play. A small little cave type club. And the Countdown Club, the Nevin out in Glasnevin, Johnny God's Island Bridge, great, absolutely brilliant gig. The Castaways Club in Clondalkin, the Osbisa Club facing the Gaiety. Yeah, they actually brought out a system where they gave band members free passes for Friday and Sunday nights. It didn't work on the Saturday, but if you weren't working on Friday or Saturday, you could actually get in free. You just flashed your card. And myself and Tony used to, when we were off. Actually, in the early days, we'd go and see Skid Row in the Five Club, with Gary Moore and Phil in the early days. And we just stand all night watching. I'd watch Noel, Tony would watch Gary, and we just stand there for the whole night. We wouldn't bother with boards or anything else, just the music, But then we progressed from that then. Ollie rang me one day and says, Danny, just want to go to Spain and Mexico. I said, yeah, Jesus, sure. So he says, right, there's a gig, 6 weeks gig on Torrejón Air Base, just outside Madrid. And then from that you go to Mexico. There's another 6 week gig in Mexico. And the Reddies were great, And so we had to rehearse with these two guys, Nicky and Noel Kerr from Tipperary. They were a trombone player and a trumpet player. And they were through all the showband thing. And we'd kind of long hair, shoulder length hair, and we would have to go through, the Honey Street thing, the real kind of rock thing. And we rehearsed with them, and they had to have a girl singer. So we rehearsed with a girl singer, and about a week before we were due to go away to Spain, the girl pulled out a gig, and the two guys panicked. Do you know any good singers? Yeah. And we said, a great singer, but it's a guy, it doesn't matter to say we'll take him. So we brought Robbie around, told him about the gig. Yeah, I'd love that. So we rehearsed with Robbie. They thought he was great, and we went off to Spain and we played the Torrejón Air Base for 6 weeks.
Interesting experience, was it?
Absolutely amazing. There was you know, as soon as you went onto the base, you were actually in America. You had to spend dollars, you know, and but you know the guys there loved the band. We used to do like it was a kind of a poppy band because of the two guys, you know, the brass guys. That's all they wanted, and we used to do stuff like Knock Three Times and Candida, you know, and but on Saturday nights there was always a major American act, and I always remember one of the Saturday nights was a band called the Cowcell Family. And there was a TV show called The Partridge Family, and they were actually made from this Cowcell, you know, family, you know, and they were absolutely fantastic. They were great, very professional, and like there was all the kids in the band played as well, you know, the whole family. But at the end of that 6 weeks, then they said before we go to Mexico, we had to send Robbie home because you know we don't need him in Mexico. We have. They actually owned the pub, I think, you know, the bar in Mexico. So we said, right, you know, if Robbie's going, we're going, and we all stuck together. And we had this disco dancer girl who said, you know, I know a guy in town that will get you gigs, you know. So we stayed, and we were living on the money that we had kind of saved up, you know, from the 6 weeks. And we were there for about another, I'd say, 3 or 4 weeks before we actually met up with somebody. So there's
So
a guy
you didn't
there.
go to Mexico?
No, we didn't go to Mexico.
Right.
No, we stayed. We all said, right, we'd stay and work in Spain. And so we actually got this manager, David Acosta, who had sang with an English band in Spain and done really, really well. And so he actually got us a small gig, came to hear us, liked the band, and started getting us gigs everywhere. Like we were going up to Burgos, say, for 6 weeks. We were playing every night. We used to do a gig on Sunday afternoon, 12 o'clock. Sometimes the guys to come and shout out the window, you know, throwing stones up to get us out of bed. And we'd literally get out of bed and go into the club and start playing. It was crazy. But because we sang in English, the band was huge. We used to literally get mobs sometimes, you know.
Wow.
Great experience. But we were kind of rehearsing our originals on our rock set, you know, at the time. And rehearsing in a dungeon, you had to lift up the floor to kind of get down into the dungeon to actually rehearse, and the heat in the place. But we did it. Myself, Tony and Martin were going to form a 3-piece band when we go back. Robbie wasn't really interested, and you know, we did all Martin's originals. And
Martin was the bass player now?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Martin
Noel
Bourne.
wasn't there, yeah.
Yeah, Noel wasn't there because Martin Bourne had come away with us
Okay.
to Spain. We actually had started to put together Adolf J. Rag, as it turned out to be, before we went to Spain, and that's when Martin Bourne came in, you know. And so, yeah, we had some photos taken in Spain. Robbie actually took the photos for us, and we were sending them home to get publicity and stuff to Pat Egan, you know, Spotlight magazine. And so we put this set together, and we were supposed to do a gig in France supporting Stud, the breakup, you know, of the Taste. And you know, when it came to actually going on the gig, they had to put up. You had to have a carney. Say we're taking in £10,000 worth of gear. You had to put the 10,000 up front, bring the gear in, do the gig, bring it back. They check it, and you got your money back. And the guys hadn't got the carney money to put up, so we couldn't actually go and do the gig. We never actually did a gig. So to get us home, they got us a gig. They start bringing over bands like you know, top bands of the day, Marmalade, Mungo Jerry, and actually the bass player from Marmalade, Graham, used to come to our gigs. You know, thought the man was great and kind of hung out with us for a while. But we just coughed it up and said, no, you know, we're going home. You know, because they had promised a lot of stuff, you know, and half of it, you know, didn't happen. Yeah. So they said they'd get us a gig with Mungo Jerry, supporting Mungo Jerry, and then from that then, you know, we'd have it ready to go home. But so we were supposed to do our pop set, and we would have to be rehearsing this rock stuff and originals and all, you know, for like months. So we said, right, fuck it, we just do our own set, the Adolf set, and that's what we did, and went an absolute bomb. It was brilliant on the gig because Mungo Jerry were real light band, you know, blown into bottles and kind of honky kind of a band. And we were just out and out kind of rock, you know. And there was a guy there supposed to have organised the Stones tour of Europe. German guy, couldn't speak English, came in was freaking with us not to go home. You know, I'm going to get you lots of gigs and all this. And so we didn't. We just came home. You know, we came on home. But as it turned out, we had to. You know, we were supposed to. This guy was saving all our money at the time, and we were only taking, you know, some of our money, you know, a small proportion of our money, 1,000 pesetas a week we were taking, and he was supposed to be banking the rest for us. And it turns out he was investing it and bringing over X, and then he was frozen out because the local agents didn't kind of like him. He was an English guy bringing in X, so he actually lost all our money.
All your money was gone.
Yeah, gone. And this was after like 7 months, you know. And, you know, we thought we'd be driving home in Jeeps and everything because we were doing an awful lot of gigs. We were doing lots and lots of gigs. And we were getting fed and we were getting boarded, so we didn't need money for anything. It was 6 pesetas for 20 cigarettes, 6 pesetas for the beer. You know, we had 1,000 pesetas in our pocket a week, like, you know, it was just crazy. But so to actually come home, I had to give my kit of drums into the embassy to get a ticket home, you know, the same for the rest of the guys. And myself and Tony came home together, Tony Gertie. We came home by train. We got a 24-hour train from Madrid to France. We had to sleep on the train. You know, it was one of those sleep-on jobs. And I remember when we stepped off the boat from England to Ireland, we were short a penny for 10 woodbines. That's how tight things were, you know.
Been there.
But yeah. So from that then we just kind of put the band back together. Adolf, myself, Tony, and Martin, and we started playing around as Adolf J. Rag, and it was fairly successful.
Robbie Welch, you had a story about him in a nightclub, or?
Oh yeah, Robbie. Now before he ever played in the band with us, Robbie was with some great bands. He was with a band called The Humans with Scott Mulvey, and he Scott really well. And he was, you know, there was a concert on in Dublin, and the bands were all arguing about who's going on first. And Robbie says, "Right, fuck it, we'll go on first. Nobody comes on after me." He was a real out and out rock star, and you know, this is like in the late 60s, and he was on stage running around, and he jumped up and grabbed what he thought was an iron bar, but it was a blue fluorescent light. When he grabbed it, it broke and went into his head. His head was pouring. There was ambulances and police and called and everything. And I believe he got the headlines in the Evening Herald, the Evening Press, which was, you know, really, really big deal in those days. But he was a great showman. He was a great guy and a great showman. We were playing a gig in the stadium when Lizzie came back after having the hit with Whiskey in a Jar. We were one of the support bands on the gig, and Robbie wanted to make his entrance onto the stage by riding down the aisles on a horse and ride by the stage and jump off the stage onto the horse. The guys, "No, you're not doing that. You know you're doing that." So then he wanted to swing on a rope from one of the balconies. There was 2 balconies. Swing on a rope down onto the stage. "No, you're not doing that." But that's the kind of ideas he had. Like he was way ahead of his time. Like, you know, if he had had control of the situation, you know, he might have had some amazing. But he was always lifting Tony up on his shoulders when Tony was doing a solo and stuff like that, and really exciting. You know, I have a couple of photos there. There's one taken in the Phoenix Park when we were supporting McGuinness Flint. And he has Tony up on his shoulders playing. And so he was an excellent front man, you know. But myself...
he's not with us anymore.
No, Robbie's dead a few years now. I didn't even know he had died, you know, at the time, because I moved down to Mullingar a couple of years ago. You kind of slightly lose touch a little bit. But there was a time when we were in Honey Sweet, we used to gig around, you know, a lot of the clubs. There was a great club out in the Sportsman's Inn in Mount Miriam. Bill Whitram was the guy that ran that.
That's right.
And he absolutely loved the band, you know, and he always gave us a lot of great gigs. And on the, you know, if you walked in on the ground level was the kind of main ballroom that would have all the big pop bands from England. He brought over some great bands. I remember the band called The Clouds. We used to support some of them. And there was a band called The Clouds. And the drummer was the main guy in the band, but he had a 24-inch bass drum, you know, kind of popular for a while. But the stem on the bass drum pedal was really long, and it was swinging around. And we used to do Cream and Hendrix and stuff like that. It had to be fairly tight, and I had to use his gear, and it was a complete nightmare. The thing was coming back and beating the leg off me and trying to get tight little little snappy bass drum riffs. But we used to play mostly down in the Cave, was the downstairs gig, and we played support to Rory Gallagher there once, and Rory thought the band was great. He thought Tony was a fantastic guitar player, and he actually gave Tony his AC 30-watt amp after the gig, yeah, and like it had the tear on the cover in the top right hand corner. Was kind of torso by about a foot by a foot, kind of down, really well used. And I think there was a handle missing. There was one handle in it, but he actually gave it to Tony, and Tony had that like you know for a long time. And when Tony was going to get married, he was going with a girl, Linda Hendricks, and her brother Jerry was learning guitar, and Tony was teaching Jerry guitar, so he loaned Tony the amp, and to rehearse on. And then when Tony was killed in Miami that time, then Mrs. Gertie told Jerry to keep the amp. You know, if Tony wanted you to have it, well then keep it. So he actually still has that. Great guitar player, Jerry. I kind of played with him then later on with Don Baker. I was with Don for about a year and a half with Jerry, and that was like. That was kind of well after the group scene.
So you and Tony Geraghty worked together right from the start up until when?
Yeah, myself and Tony, as I said, sitting on the gate in Crumlin and seeing Brian coming down with the drum, played in every band right through our lives, right up to the end of Adolf J. Rag was myself and Tony from Adolf split Adolf to form a band called Jack with Joe Keeffe, singer from The Urge, and Noel Cullen, the bass player from The Urge. And so we rehearsed that, I put a set together, and we were working away at that for a while. And myself and Tony then was offered the gig with the Gentry. And at the time, with Adolf and that, we weren't really getting money. We were kind of paying the money back out to do the gig, to hire PAs and things. We used to get a lot of our stuff from the band centre, Fran Quigley. And on the days off as well, we just go in there and hang out and have a chat and meet all the guys coming in and where are you playing and whatever. And our dad's Hurley's and Crossguns Bridge was the other horse shop. If Fran had all his stuff out, you'd have to go up into Hurley's and get a gear from Hurley's. But and John was in the back room. He used to fix the amps and I do all the stuff on the amps. We were offered a gig with the Gentry, myself and Tony, and then, as I say, the lineup then was Carol Doherty on vocals with Colette Wilkinson, Colum's sister, absolutely brilliant singer. I always remember, really stood out in my mind, Steamroller Blues. I'm a steamroller, baby, gonna roll all over you, and that long blonde hair, absolutely brilliant singer. But Tony definitely was on sax and keyboards, Frank Daly on bass, and Joe Stanton was on second lead guitar, the two lead guitars. We used to do Reeling in the Ears, stuff like that. And I used to do Dance with the Devil was out then. We used to do Dance with the Devil, and we used to do Steely Dan, the Doobie Brothers, all that kind of stuff, So it was a show band, but it was a rock show band, We were still playing rock and getting paid. I think the basic wage at the time was 25 quid, and for 3 gigs, I think, and then something like I don't know what it was, say 8 quid a gig after that or something. The old kind of pounds, but I remember. The money was really good, and the band was great. But while we were rehearsing the kind of Gentry gig, I was asked to dep with Rob Strong and the Platinum, and I did a weekend with them in Killarney, and it was a fantastic weekend, fantastic band. Yeah, so I did a weekend with them, and we still, we hadn't started with the Gentry yet. We were rehearsing the set and stuff, and so the treatment, was unbelievable. Staying top class hotels. The money was brilliant. I forget what the money was now. I remember at the time being knocked out. I think I did 4 gigs with him down in Killarney and Cork, and I kind of hung out with Rob and the manager. Kind of looked after me. They looked after me really well. This was in 1973, late kind of 1973, and so I was only 23 at the time, and it was really it was a great experience to kind of do that. And they actually offered me the gig, but I had already committed to the Gentry. Yeah. So I think Noel went in after me and Al Bridgman. And then we kind of took off with the Gentry, and we were doing really well. It was a great gig. And then Cack got offered the gig in Joseph's Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and he was Pharaoh in it. He kind of had an Elvis part in it, and at the time Glitter was coming out, and they were, everybody was wearing glitter, the singers and stuff. So we were all roped into that because he was doing that 6 nights a week, so we all had to be employed in it, We all had like long hair, we still had long hair, rocky looking guys, and so we went in, we were like the Backstreet Kids going into the thing, it was a big joke for us, and they were also serious about it. And there was myself and Joe Stanton. We were called guards, and we got like bits and pieces of things, like we were slaves, slave buyers, we were pantries at one stage at the start of the opening. We were the donkey. I was the head, Joe was the back. There's no way I was going to be the back. Joe didn't mind it at all. He said, I don't care. He used to have to do this little kick going off stage, Tony Kenny sitting on his back. And it was a great laugh. And then on the weekends, then we'd go and gig, what we were there to do. But we did that for a while. It was a great experience. And Alan D was in the show as well. And, we had some great crack. Ourselves and Alan D's band. Alan's whole band was in the show as well. And we were in the Olympia. Then we went down to Cork, and Jim Hand called us in one day. Had a band meeting and said, "We're going to go Glitter, boys. It's all, it's big, and everybody's doing it. We're going to run with Cack's image in the show." So we said, right, what extra do we get for putting this glitter on? Because we were just kind of ordinary kind of guys, And they said nothing. So we didn't want to know. Myself, Tony and Frank Daly said, no, we're not doing it. If we don't get extra money, we're not doing it. So they said, right, then we'll get somebody else. And we were down in Cork, and the pit band, like with Desi Reynolds, John Drummond, and Des Moore, like great musicians, and they were all coming to our gig that Saturday in the Stardust Club in Cork, and so they said, we just said we were going to leave the band if we weren't going to get paid, say if we weren't on this glitter stuff, and so they said, right, then you're sacked. So we said, right, so we're just going to finish up in the show and that's it. So they said we have to do the gig Saturday night. So we were afraid they wouldn't pay us, on the gig. So we said, right, we're not doing the gig, and so they had to get the pit band to actually do the gig, and we were at the gig, But it's just a falling out we had. It's just the way things kind of happen. But from that, Tony, myself and Tony then and Frank were out of work, and the gig's going at the time. Tony was after the gig in the Miami, and I was after the gig in Sandy Jones Band. And Tony's brother Carl Gertie, sax player, great sax player, Carl, and great friend as well. Carl was playing with Sandy Jones Band, so I actually took the gig with Sandy, and Tony took the gig with the Miami. And that's the first band that we went in together, from the start, so it was a bit strange. And Tony was going with Linda at the time, and I was only after getting married. I was actually with the Gentry when I got married. I got married in January, and the Gentry were my wedding band, kind of. We just set up the gear and everybody played. I got up and did a little bit, and there was other guys there. And, so that was in January 1974. And then we kind of ran with the Gentry thing right down to the end of the year, I think, with the show and everything else. And then at the end of that year, then that's when we kind of left and split. And Tony then went to Miami, and I was with Sandy Jones. And then what happened with the Miami Massacre then.
Can you would you mind elaborating just a little bit on that? How did you hear? How did it affect you?
Yeah, I was myself and Tony. Although we were in different bands, we still met. Tony was after getting a small Fiat car, and he used to call up to me, and I had a 3-year-old son, Stephen, and Tony used to call up, and we'd go and play snooker together in Walkinstown. I actually lived in Tallaght at the time. Tony was still in his mother's down Stanley Road, and myself and Linda were saving to buy a house. They were going to get married, I think, later that year, in 75. And so I had half a house rented in Tallaght, and my brother was on the top half, and myself and Steph were on the bottom half. With we had Stephen and Ian at the time, you know, and sorry.
Okay.
Jesus, I don't think I can
No,
say it.
it's
Sorry.
okay, take your time.
My brother came down and, you know, it was only in bed a couple of hours. I think after being in Galway. And my brother came down and said, you know, there's after being shooting, you know, the man we showband were shot. And, you know, I couldn't believe it. I was thinking, you know, Tony's going to be grand, you know, it's going to be no problem. And I actually didn't drive, so my brother said, come on, we get down, you know. So we went down to Tony's house. And, you know, as soon as you walked in the door, we just knew by everybody was there, and I seen his mother. And then they just knew it was true, you know. But it really
for anyone else,
devastated me.
yeah, of course. But for anybody that doesn't know about that situation, Tony was playing up the north of Ireland with the band. He was with the Miami show band, and it was a very bad time in the north for the people, and they were stopped by a terrorist organisation. They planted a bomb, or tried to plant a bomb on the van.
Yeah.
The bomb went off prematurely, and 3 of the boys were shot by the other person.
Yeah, they tried to finish everybody, trying to kill everybody.
Yeah, and they were targeted because they were Catholics, basically. Was that it?
They were trying to make out that the show bands were ferrying bombs for the IRA, and but the bomb, you know, that they were carrying went off prematurely. That was supposed to be the plan. So they've said, you know, there's been a couple of books and stuff out since that. But
it hit you very bad anyway.
It hit me
when you
really,
learned
really
about
bad. I could not believe it, you know. And you know, I didn't cry at the time. I was just stunned, completely stunned. And until I went in to buy his mask card, and then it just exploded, you know. Because you know, it's actually buying his mask card. But
did it affect
Tony's such a great guy, you know.
Your playing? Did it affect your gigs?
I'd say it definitely did. You kind of lost heart, but you still had to gig. Like the bands refused to go up north. You know, we were still, you know, I was still playing with Sandy's band. Carl had actually left the band then. Carl was actually in Las Vegas, I think, at the time, or South Africa. I think it was Vegas he was in, but he was after going away with Red Hurley, I think. He was only after leaving the band a couple of months earlier. And so, you know, we had to keep gigging, you know. It was our livelihood, and we didn't go up north anymore. We used to do gigs up north on a regular basis, and we were always stopped at the checkpoints. And they had these big signs out saying, "Don't blame us, blame the terrorists," you know. And we had to turn off the lights on the van coming up to the checkpoint, and you know, I believe they were listening to your conversation. You know, they had these mics pointed at the van and stuff, and we were listening to your conversation. So we all just stopped talking, and we go up, and we just wanted to get through the checkpoint, get on and do the gig, and, you know, get on with it. And it's just it kind of affected the whole music scene in Ireland. Really was devastated by it, because the 3 guys are just you know, really, really nice guys, and great musicians and stuff. So but you know, I just couldn't believe Tony was gone, you know, gone forever, like. So
I mean, I remember getting a shock, Danny. I can imagine how you feel.
Yeah, it's
felt.
Yeah. And then his parents, his mother, he had 6 brothers, and you know, she didn't have any girls, you know, Mrs. Gertie, and she just loved her family, you know. Mr. and Mrs. Gertie were great parents, and Tony's parents and my parents were great friends. My dad was a training examiner in Western Row, and Tony's dad was a carpenter in Jacobs, carpenter foreman in Jacobs, and lovely man. You know, we used to rehearse in Tony's house. If we weren't rehearsing in Tony's house through all the years, you know, down through all the years with the different bands, we'd be rehearsing in my house. We used to get letters from the corporation to about the sound, you know. And you know, by times then there'd be gangs standing outside the house listening to the music, you know.
Yeah.
And so it was absolutely devastating, you know. Tony was to be married later that year to Linda, and Mrs. Gertie gave me Tony's wedding ring. So, you know, sorry, Jesus,
No,
40 years later, you know.
Yeah.
It's
No.
just- you just go right back to that moment, you know, to those moments, and
Yeah. He was sadly missed by everybody, but especially his close friends like you.
really, seriously missed.
It was a terrible time for Irish music, you're right. It
Yeah,
really was.
it was a terrible time,
I
yeah.
stopped going up the north myself for a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, you just getting on, Danny. You've managed to play on. You've been playing.
Yeah.
You've never stopped working.
No, I've never stopped working. I was always lucky enough to, you know, to kind of to get a gig with somebody who was kind of working on a steady basis. You know, Sandy Jones' band, the bass player, Johnny Campbell was the bass player from Cork, and Ted Moynihan was the guitar player from Cork, and Sandy was the lead singer with Pat Lynch, who had previously been with the Air Chords, and his brother Steve Lynch, who's a great guitar player, played with the Dixies. He was a head case. He was a gas man. He was a great guy. He actually managed the band, and at every opportunity he'd jump up on stage. He wanted to go up on stage and play with us, you know, and he always just happened to have a bandsuit handy. And so we continued on playing, and when I left that band, there was a knock at the door one day, and there was three tall guys at the door, and it was Rob Strong, Sean Sherrard, and Mick Sherrard, who was known as the O'Hagan brothers because of their dad. Patrick O'Hagan was an Irish tenor, and they said they were forming a band called The Joints, and they they'd be interested in joining, and I said, yeah, of course, great. And so the other members of the band was Jimmy Gaynor on guitar and Brian Harris on guitar. Brian was a great friend of mine later on. Myself and Brian and Pat Kearney was with Colin Wilkinson. We had a three-piece band going with Colin. That was his backing band. And we used to do 2 gigs a night. We only had to have snare drum and sticks and guitars. Colin used to pick us up in his Jag, and we'd do 2 half-hour spots a night, and we'd do, say, mostly the weekends, Friday, Saturday,
That's
Sunday.
when the cabaret scene in Dublin was
The
flying.
cabaret had taken off big time.
Flying.
It was flying, and Colin was a very big act. And then he wrote Born to Sing, and he won the national song contest. And all of a sudden, we had a personnel wagon and a road crew, and we were doing proper full gigs, you know. And that was the band. And so
The Giants.
the Giants, yeah. So the Giants played around for a long time, and from the Giants, I don't know how the Giants actually finished up. I think I was after a gig with Colin at the time, and we weren't doing an awful lot of gigs with the Giants. Although it was a great band, it was a really, really good band. But I think I went from that into Colin's band then, and then when Colin won the Eurovision, we were gigging away. It was really, really good. And then Colin had to break the band up. He had to go off the road to do other things. You know, he was doing. He's starting into his theatre stuff around that time. And then I was playing with actually Alan D and the Royds for a while around that time.
Alan D and
the Royds. Do you remember the band? Yeah, great band. That was with Frank Daly and Sammy Nevin, and we did a couple of gigs. We were kind of in and out of bands at that era, you know, for a while. But when I was I was rehearsing with a band, Jimmy Fanning from The Strangers and Nicola Kerr, and we were putting this pop band together, and we actually played one gig. It was the annual gig for the Italian chipper people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they all get together every year and they have this gig, and it was it's a hotel up on the Nice Road. But when I got home from the gig, there was a telegram, because there was no mobile phones or anything then. There's a telegram from Johnny Campbell, the bass player with Sandy Jones Band, and he said that there was a European tour, a 7-week European tour supporting Rory Gallagher. Would I come over to London for rehearsals? It was happening in about 2 weeks' time now. Would I be interested? And of course I was, because we were only doing sparse gigs. We were after starting this band, and this was our first gig, and we didn't know how it was going to go, and so it was the best option at the time. So I went over and rehearsed with the boys. The band was called Sunwheel, and we did a 7-week tour of Europe supporting Rory, which was an amazing experience, great experience. And our set was less than a half an hour long. It was just under a half an hour long, and we only had to bring snare and sticks and guitars again. And
Dream gig.
Yeah, dream gig, and we used all the boys' equipment. And then after each gig, the promoter of the gig, it was Good Times Promotions. Their sign was like the Three Monkeys, but it was see all, hear all, and say all. And they were great guys. They really treated us really well. But after each gig, Rory would come up in his stretch limo and pick us up and bring us out to wherever the promoter was bringing us. Like in Paris, it was a club called the Crazy Horse nightclub, and the show opened with 12 nude women dancing across the stage. But there was always lights going across the stage, so it was never like total and absolute. It was kind of, it wasn't like, it was kind of classy, But there was some amazing acts in that show as well. But that was the kind of thing on the tour the whole way down. And ahead of us was who was ahead of us? Jesus, Paul McCartney, I think, was ahead of us. And I always remember.
How do you mean ahead of you?
You know the way, like it was a 7-week tour.
Okay.
And so like it was the same circuit. All the bands played the same circuit.
Yeah.
So it was like Paul McCartney and Wings, I think. It was say Rory Gallagher, and then it was Paul McCartney, and then it was somebody else. Yeah. And but I always remember Paul McCartney's like. We were playing the stadium in Munich, and the trucks, drove right up to the stage. Amazing setup. That's where the Olympics were held, it's an enormous place. And some of the venues were just enormous, but you didn't see anybody. It was just all darkness. And but the sound as well in the gigs were great. The guys really looked after us great. But I remember the roadie from Paul McCartney's band came in with a bunch of keys and loads of little bites on the neck, and it's bored with him. And now he came in, and he was drinking a can of beer, and he was all shapes and talk about doors and the way to get in and out of the place. And then he finished off his beer, and anybody fancied some dope, and he got the can and he punched the back of it and took out a huge lump of dope. Took out his keys and made a lot of little holes in it. I put this lump of dope and just sucked it through the hallway to drink the beer, and sucked it through the can. Started handing it around, and crazy, really true roadie.
Was this before the gig?
No, he actually wasn't gigging. He was like a forward runner, sussing out the run of the place, Yeah. But we did that for 7 weeks. So when we actually landed in Germany, the boys had it well together. We bought a Volkswagen Variant, and that saved us a fortune. We just threw everything into that. It was like an estate, and that took us in all gear, and we drove right through all the gigs. And
you've had a really interesting scenes, very eventful life in the business. Do you have any regrets, Danny?
Well, there was from that gig. Donald Gallagher actually got the band Sunwheel the gig with Chuck Berry, to be Chuck Berry's band, to do exactly the same 7-week tour. We came home for 2 weeks, or for 3 weeks, but the band was based in Cork. I was after being away for 7 weeks. I had 2 children, my wife at home, and we were home for 3 weeks. And if I was home for 2 days a week, would have been the most, those 3 weeks because you were based in Cork. And as you were to leave to go away, they were looking for a honky-tonk piano player, and I got Scott Mulvey on the gig with us, and it was the exact same band that had supported Rory, except with Scott and keyboards. And 3 days before we were to leave for the gig, we got a notice to quit on the house we were in. It was a half a house, and we were told you have to leave now. We want to sell the house, and so I couldn't just go and leave my wife with all this. Like she was bringing the kids to school and doing all the other stuff. And although the money was good, it wasn't like incredible. And so I had to pull out a gig. And I'd say, in a way, I had to do it. There's no choice. Like I wasn't going to go away in anywhere. Like,
it was a no-brainer.
But of the timing of that, and the fact I was away for 7 weeks and then 3 weeks, kind of not really home for 3 weeks. So I didn't go on that gig, and so I'd say that was probably the biggest regret I ever had, that I couldn't have done that gig.
Yeah.
If it had been the other way around or something, because I would have loved to, have it that I played in Chuck Berry's band. I'd say I would have absolutely loved the gig,
Yeah.
And the boys went and did a gig, but the rehearsals, they were telling me, was amazing. Like, it was a Saturday afternoon, and the rehearsal was, I'll do this, I'll do that, you stop and I do this and do that and that. It was now like running through numbers and top to bottom with tops and tails and nothing. Just this and this and this and this, and that was it. And that was rehearsal done. But the boys were saying the gig was great, but the head on the gig, he'd go on, do the full show and come off, and the boys would say, they'd be all screaming for more, and the promoter would come out to him, you have to go back and do another one. 50 quid. Cash in the hand, into his pocket, out and do the gig. Yeah, so he was I remember he was asked once, would you have any advice for young musicians? And he said, yeah, get a good accountant before you go learn your instrument or anything else.
Yeah. But you've enjoyed yourself though, Danny, haven't you?
Absolutely, very, very lucky.
You've been
very lucky. I was with some great guys.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't in a working band. I was always with friends. It's not like some guys have to go in on their own into a band of total strangers and work. I was always with a band of friends. I was very, very lucky. Yeah. And friends for all our lives.
40, 50 years. That is one thing about musicians. They remain friends forever. And when you meet them after 20 or 30 years. Yeah. It's just like you saw them last week.
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
And like you and I today, I don't know.
Like two of us today, we just
be 20 years or something.
20 odd years, Benny, yeah. But, back in the day when we used to be rivals, in a kind of a funny way, and it was great. But yeah, I've been very, very lucky to always be working with with an artist that was kind of doing a lot of gigs, and in I think it was 1982. Johnny Logan won the Eurovision in 1980. I actually put the band together with Johnny when we were always friends then from the Giants days, and then we call him Johnny because Johnny then used to play support. Used to go around, his guitar playing support to guys like Neil Tobin and that. Up in the embankment at Tala, he called in for me, and if I wasn't working, I'd go up with him. And Ailish, was a great friend of Steph's. She used to come over and sit in with Steph and myself and Sean to go up and did it. He'd actually do the gig, and so he always wanted his own band. And Jim Hand was managing, and he was always asking Jim, to put a band around. So eventually Jim agreed, and he came to me and said, right, we're going to put a band together. And so myself and Sean went around, and we went to various musicians, and it was we kind of got Andy O'Callaghan was on keyboards, Peter Beckett was on lead guitar, Peter Beckett and Shay Cafferty was on bass. I never really knew Shay before somebody suggested him for the band, and Mick then was so we did really well as a. We had the O'Hagan Brothers band was slightly before the Johnny Logan band actually. I forgot about that, and we kind of had that. Myself and Brian Harris and that, and the boys was in that, and Mick played bass. And then when Sean won the Eurovision in 1980, we were all put on retainers while he was away working. And then the Rose sisters came in front of the band, Patricia and Valerie Rowe, two gorgeous girls, really, really good. And
the jumpsuits.
Couldn't forget the jumpsuits. I will never forget the jumpsuits. And two fantastic girls, great crack on the gigs as well. Great singers.
You were on drums right at the back.
I was on drums at the back, yeah. And then when Sean came home to do his first as Johnny Logan Eurovision winner, the band was augmented with a couple of people were put in kind of to MD the band and that.
Yeah.
So we did. He actually did. Billy Brown was the musical director, and on piano, brilliant he was. And we had the percussion player from Gladys Knight and the Pips was on the gig, and Des Moore was brought in on guitars as a second guitarist. And we did 3 gigs, and we had a mega like PA system and a light system from the north. And what's another year was obviously the biggie, and we did 3 gigs, the Premier Ballroom in Thurles, and we did Glen Eagle and Clary. And then after that, Sean was away an awful lot, doing kind of European stuff, and we just continued on, with the Rose sisters fronting the band, and Jerry Hendrick came into the band. Then Peter left, and Jerry came in, and Jerry was with us for a while, and we went from that. Then that kind of broke up eventually because different people wanted to do different things, and the gigs kind of weren't really happening.
Like the 60s when I started to hear bands and listen through doorways and everything, bands rehearsing and all that.
Yeah.
And I often go back there in my mind and said that they were really, really good, innocent times when you begin in the business.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I'm sure you do that yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you
totally honest, yeah.
and Tony, that particular day, watching Brian Downey take a
drum.
the
drum down.
I'm sure
yeah.
that comes into your mind a lot.
All the time. And myself and Brian were great friends, and because we were in, say, Honey Street, later on with Adolf, we were on the same gigs together. Sometimes we were on the same bill. The two bands would be the bands on that night. And Brian was with the Sugar Shack then with Pat Fortune for a while, and that was a great band as well. Pat Fortune, Depth with us, for a while for Noel Cullen as well, and another great guy. The way it kind of interchanged, I Depth with a band called Taxi, Sammy Nevin's band. I remember
From the north.
Whole Lot of Love was only after coming out, and they were doing it, and so I got to play Whole Lot of Love. We hadn't got it in the set. I remember, myself and Tony, when we were kind of getting into the group days from the showbandy days of the Soundlords, we used to listen to Radio Luxembourg was the only station that had anything kind of good on it, and you either bought the albums, there's no other way of hearing them. You either bought them or, but we used to be listening at 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd be sitting listening all because we didn't want to wake in the mind. We'd be listening to the radio, and you'd hear these great bands. And I always remember the one that stood out for me was hear this amazing track, Black Knight, Deep Purple, and the drumming was only unreal. The whole band, like everything on the band, Tony, the guitar playing. So we went into Pat Egan the next day and got Pat in the sound cellar down the end of Grafton Street. We used to go into Pat and try and get him to give us write-ups in that. He had a rock page in the Starlight Spotlight. Yeah, we used to all hunt him, yeah. And we try and get a photo in. If you got a photo in, it was really good. I actually have a cutout where we got a photo for Jack. And I think we got a photo for Honey Street as well.
We're going to look at those.
Yeah.
But anyway, you had a great time. Anyway, we fucking take that out.
Yeah.
You had a great time, Danny. And
great, Benny. Very, very lucky.
Yeah.
Sort of regrets would be like the rock scene kind of coming to an end. It kind of fizzled out a bit, the rock scene, and that's a kind of regret. Those days are gone forever. Like there's no support bands anymore. Support bands gave young musicians a great chance to to get up and play to a live audience.
Learn your craft.
Learn your craft, yeah. And it was absolutely fantastic. You didn't want money. You weren't in it for the money. You just wanted to do a gig and see how it felt. And you would be a bag of nerves and you'd get up and do the gig and just talking about it and the buzz of the gig after the gig. And I made a mistake here, I made a mistake there, or whatever. And all of that newness and excitement in learning music, it's kind of gone now, yeah. Like it doesn't seem to be anything coming up. But so for me, moving on, say from that into today, say working with Dickie and still with definitely with some of the bands like Streetwise and that, the lads in Streetwise, Noel Porter, doing Noel's gigs, Terry Merrigan as well. I gig with Terry for a long time as well. These guys are great, good time. Just love being in the business, love singing songs, love doing gigs. The money thing, the money you get, is not worth talking about. And those kind of gigs, it's not really, unless you're up there at really big albums and stuff. It's it's the actual gig. What you're in it for really is the music. At the end of the day, when you get up and go out, set up a gig to play, it's always for the music. It's always for the music.
Morning rain keeps on falling, like there's tears fall from your eyes. Yes, I sit in my room, staring out of the gloom. Yes, the rain is the same. Oh, blue. I can't help but thinking, when the sun, you just shine on my back door. Now the sun turned to rain, all my laughter's turned to pain. It's the pain, the same. Whoa, blue. There's tears fall from your eyes. Yet I sit in my room, staring out at the gloom. Yes, the rain is the same. Whoa, blue. Sunshine, sunshine is all you see now. But it all looks like clouds to me. Looks like clouds to me. Yet I sit in my room, staring out at the gloom. Yes, the rain is the same. Oh, blues. Oh, yeah. He's a